from all, to all, with all, for all, through all. We thank the gods of creation. We thank the ancestors. We thank the forces of nature. And we thank the earth. We thank them for their direction, their protection, their guidance, for keeping us, showing us, allowing us to know and enjoy life to its fullest, now and later.
Black people who once loved with the slow march of time. Time was ours to hold in the soft, low-born chambers of our hearts. And was we, the Afro mommies and daddies of a sun world, would turn our strands of hair into antennas to tune in the juju madness and syncopated love rhythms of Africa. And we loved with time, and we took the time to love, and with the right time we loved, and we loved time after time. Will we ever love again? Will we ever love again? Will we really ever love again? Or will we just sit and rot away with the brighter tomorrows in the skag field, rat-cluttered halls of our minds?
Black people, what y'all gonna do? Black people, what y'all gonna do?
Will the real black people please stand up?
Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Listen to me now, yo, before Dr. Dre, there was Dr. James, welding cords around a copper frame. We sing songs, not for the accolades, to lift voices like a helicopter blade. High in the listening skies, my eyes glisten and tears drop down like rain. Not from the pain, from the joy of how far we came. My brainstorms are designed to celebrate our reign. Yeah, when you put it in perspective, the collective, monuments erected, continents affected, presidents elected, ancestors making moves with the music we've been blessed with. We use it to keep communities connected. Through harmonies, a harmony is collected. Reaping the fruits our foremothers invested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on.
Sing a song,
yeah, talk to
full of the faith that the dark past march on
Yeah.
till victory is
Until
won.
victory is won. Come on.
Till victory is
This is
won.
victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it. Yeah, come on.
Good evening, Story Viewing family, and once again, this is Brother Johnny sitting in for host W.C. Johnson, and I'm glad that you all can be with us again this evening. Those of you who are watching on television, those of you who will also be checking us out on YouTube, Vimeo, Instagram, and Facebook, I'm glad once again that you all are able to be with us. So, again, we appreciate that you all are taking time out your busy schedules to share some time with us. I'm very pleased tonight because I got a special guest with us tonight, and he's someone who I've had the pleasure to to meet and be introduced to you, and I've been just someone who's kind of been impressed just given your background and just all not only that you have done as far as what you've accomplished, but also just where you're at right now in your life. But again, I'd like to just appreciate that you're here with us tonight and introduce you to our viewing family here. This is Dr. A.E. Bak. And if you could just, give us some information in regards to what it is that I guess you have your doctorate in. Are you a medical doctor or?
I'm a PhD doctor.
Okay, and what is your PhD in?
And my area is physics.
In physics?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you say physics, some people get confused. You understand what I'm saying? Now, are you a physicist? Are you a physician? What are you saying?
And I do get that question sometimes. I'm a physicist.
You're a physicist?
Yeah,
okay.
One of those rocket scientists.
Okay, all right. So when folk think of physicists now, we're talking about someone who deals with one of the branches of the physical sciences.
That's right.
Okay, so you're dealing with kind of the nature of things.
Yeah, how things in the physical universe operate. What are the laws and principles that allow us to predict, what would happen in any given situation.
Okay, now are you up in space or are you here on planet Earth? What you primarily dealing with?
Oh, well, right now I just teach.
Okay.
So I'm not involved in any research at the moment.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
okay.
Yeah, so I teach. And I teach at Morehouse College, as you know, and I've been teaching there for it's 27 years now.
Okay.
And so it's an undergraduate institution.
Okay.
And so we prepare people for graduate school and and other careers.
Okay. Now when you say graduate school, physics, what else? Engineering?
Well, because I'm in the physics department, we do aim at people going into physics for graduate school, but not exclusively.
Okay.
Because we know people want to do all kinds of things.
Okay.
So some people most of the people through our department come through for our dual degree engineering program.
Okay.
So they're with us for a time, and then they'll go to another institution to finish up their engineering program. But we also have people who, after getting an undergrad degree in physics, they might not want to do physics, but the problem-solving skills that they get, going through a physics curriculum is something that they can use for many different areas in their lives.
Okay.
So some people may go to economics, or some people may go into law. People go into all kinds of professions. Yeah.
Now, I guess, I don't know if you would have the statistics, or if you could just give us a little guesstimate here. Would you say what would be the number of so-called, I guess, blacks, in physics? Student level, professional level. How would you say those numbers? You understand what I'm saying? Because I don't meet too many folk who are majoring in physics.
Okay.
I may meet folk who are majoring, undergrad in engineering.
Right.
And some would say, I guess if you would ask Nesby, they would say there's not enough engineers. But when dealing with physics, I guess that number has to drastically go down.
We're much lesser number than Nesby. Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't have an exact number. I haven't kept up any stats, but we had a meeting this past early November. At Morehouse. It was National Society black physicists.
Okay.
And we had undergrads and we had some graduate students and professionals come. I would say maybe we had about 300 people.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that that's everybody, but it's a good, the people there were pretty representative of the folks in the community.
Okay.
So as you've joked before to me privately, you could fit all of you guys in one room.
Right. It's not too many, yeah.
And it's, you know, there's a little exaggeration, but it's kind of sort of like that.
Okay, yeah. Because, you know, I'm not, you know, I mean, you know, again, you know, and then, you know, it's, you know, like I said, so many on the undergrad level, even those that may get the undergraduate degree, very few then may go on to actually get the doctorate in physics.
That's right, and it's not a whole bunch getting the undergrad degree, just straight physics. But that's all across the board, not just for HBCUs like I'm at.
Okay.
But you know, I would dare say at any institution, if you looked at the number of people majoring in straight physics versus engineering, something, it's going to be much less.
Okay. Now, where, if you may ask, I guess I'm asking, where did you, in undergrad, you majored in physics, obviously, right?
Yes, I did.
Where did you go to undergrad at?
I went to the University of Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm from Chicago originally, so I was at home. Yeah, so that's where I went.
And then where did you go and get your PhD from?
For my PhD, I went to MIT.
Okay.
Yeah, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay, and what was, I guess, the experience like? I guess, you know, did you encounter other black students who, you know, at University of Chicago and at MIT who were involved in the sciences?
Well, as far as the undergraduate program, University of Chicago, because you know they're mostly known for their graduate program.
Right. I think it's like the only university where the graduate students outnumber the undergraduate students. Yeah.
I would say I was the only spot in the class.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the only undergraduate, you know, black undergraduate, you know, during my time there. And some years later, I met a brother who I guess I passed the torch to him because he was the only black undergrad, you know, doing his years.
And not that we're making a big deal about that, because I want to stress to the audience, you know, we get tired of that only situation, you know, because it's like sometimes we get caught up in that Negroism of feeling special. I'm the only Negro, and that makes me feel special. So and knowing you, I know that wasn't something that you're trying to wear as something that, you know, is a badge of honor. Like you got a sticker say "Good Negro." You understand what I'm saying?
I tell you what mantle I was carrying though. I figured that okay, well, I got to represent. Yeah, you know, because there ain't a lot of us, you know, and I want to make sure everybody know, hey, we can do like you can do, and even better, you know. So I was the only one undergrad, but when I went to MIT, that was a whole. Now at that time, MIT and it was Stanford. Those were the two hubs for black graduate students in physics, and so there were people already there, you know. I mean, and so. There were folks who could school me on, you know, you might want to do this, you know, people who can give you good advice on, you know, how to negotiate the program. Yeah, so I wasn't the only one, you know. And that was very helpful because it's good to have a nice critical mass of people, you know, a community that you can fit in with, and a critical mass of people where you can really do something. And because we had so many there, my last year there, I was part of a group of students. We started this national conference of black physics students. Okay. And it was during that time that eventually that organization had a conference at Southern, and that's when I met you.
Yeah. It was the physics conference.
Right.
It was both physics and engineering at Southern.
It was just
the physics. Okay.
And at the end of that. Yeah, that's
because a lot of people don't know that Southern produces more black engineers than any other institution in the country. Yeah. I mean, at the time, now I know FAMU, and now we've got quite a few students going to North Carolina A&T.
Right.
Yeah, as well. And Howard has always had some students, especially for physics.
Yeah,
had the students coming out of Howard, but. I think I found something unique with you. While you were going through the experience, you were also a member of the Nation of Islam, right?
I was, well, let's go back. Okay, so I grew up in Chicago. I got an opportunity to go to a New England prep school, you know, for my high school years. I took this test, it's called ABC test. And I did rather well on it, so you know they'll send your scores around to different schools, and so I got invited by this school in Massachusetts to go up there. So during my last year at that school, One of the brothers who had graduated, he had joined the Nation of Islam. He had come to campus, and I guess he was kind of recruiting, And so I ran into him, and we talked, and I was at this school from 1968 to 1972, and so it was during a time where I came fall of '68. But earlier that year, Dr. King had gotten assassinated, and folks at that school and at the sister school, which was not far away, it was called Northfield, decided to come together and form an Afro-American society. Okay, so that we could have a sense, something that gives us a sense of belonging, and we can assert our agenda, so to speak.
Correct.
And so I came into that atmosphere. So I came at a very, very good time, at such a place, because it's no longer like that.
Right.
But during those years, it was like that.
Let's open up the phone lines. If we have, do we have a call on there?
Yes, hello, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
Peace.
Caller, do you have a question or
All
comment?
right. Yes, my name is Thomas Clappery. How you doing?
Okay, how you
Fine.
doing?
All right, I wanted to let you know how much I enjoy y'all show, and this is my first time ever looking at y'all show, and I wanted to know what can they do to curtail all the crime that's going on?
Okay, well, we will get to that then. Okay, well, we're going to get to that, because I think we will get to that question. So I appreciate your question, caller, because we will get to that.
And what's your name?
Okay, I'm Brother Johnny.
Okay.
Because
Because I just wanted to know if I can send a letter or something over to you.
Yeah, if you see the number on the screen, you can contact that number, and that's our storyline, and they will definitely give you the information, and also the contact who to send information to.
Because I wanted to send it to you.
Okay, to me?
Yes.
Okay, well, you can, like I said, the show, just send it to the contact line, okay?
Okay, that's 251-2201?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we will definitely get to that. 'Cause
Oh,
I know
yeah.
you want to get to that, especially being from Chicago. I know you want to deal with that subject, but I know we want to give some background and some backdrop into your situation and just your personal experience.
Right.
Especially coming out the rough streets of Chicago and what you had to deal with. I know it was a different time, but as you were talking about as far as your experience and what you was going through at the time when y'all were forming the Black Student Union, when you were at the time in prep school.
Right,
And I
right.
think immediately after that, you were talking about that.
I went into the Nation of Islam.
You went into the Nation of Islam,
Yeah,
okay.
my last year, because I mentioned all that because during those, I came at a time where we were trying to get more courses that dealt with African American history and culture, and because we're talking about a New England prep school where it was a minority of non-white students, and so they didn't have any courses like that, and so we wanted something that would make us feel more at home at a place like that, something that catered to our culture, and so we got a room that we call it Harambe and Mocha. That was our student union, Black Student Union, and we got some courses and at that time, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. There were things going on in the country at that time where not only black folks were civil rights, I guess, were morphing into Black Power movement at that time, but white students were going through things. You had the hippies and yippies and weathermen and all them people going on, and I remember Kent State happened while I was there, and so that really got a lot of white students, all up in arms. So a lot of social changes were going on in the country. But for me personally, I was getting a better foundation, in black culture. And you wouldn't believe it. Coming from a city where I grew up in an all-black neighborhood, south side of Chicago and all that, I went to that place to this prep school. My first couple terms, I had become whitenized, bro. You know, I started associating with the white students and talking like them and all that. You know, so you know, I had gotten caught up in that, and so that Afro-Am society, you know, those brothers made, you know, an effort to get me on board, and you know, it was because of that, you know, that gave me some grounding in black culture. Although I was from an all-black community,
Right, but you hadn't had that exposure.
Yeah.
As far as, I guess, getting the information. Yeah, and being, you know, I guess you were able to get exposed to some books, some individuals who were able to give you certain information and give you knowledge yourself.
Get a sense of my identity.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
And so going to that school, you know, I will say during that particular time, okay, on all the people that I met at that time, you know, the things that we went through was a part of who I am today. Yeah. So when this brother came and he was talking about the Nation of Islam, you know, I was ready for that.
Right.
Yeah, you know. And so I came out of that school and I joined the Nation. This was 1972, and it was in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I stayed there. You know, and I went through the Nation, and you know, I learned some things from the Nation that, you know, although I'm not with the Nation today, some things that still stay with me. You know, that sense of having something of our own, you know, that, you know, in the Nation, you know, we had our flag that we would give a, you know, salute to when we'd walk into the temple, and, you know, we had our own, you know, stores and, you know, our own, you know, businesses and such, and, you know, so there was a pride in who we were as black people, you know. So you know, I'm not saying the Nation was a perfect place and all of that, but that was what I needed at that time, you know. And so it gives you for a male, it gives you a sense of manhood. For female, it gives you a sense of womanhood, you know. So it was a rites of passage of sorts, you know, for me, you know. So that was very timely.
Okay, well, let me just ask you this question then. You know, was it something having to go through that academic process, or as we would say, something that you perhaps would consider very left brain? You know, being that there's no balance in it, something that you know is one thing to say, oh, well, it's European hegemony, but it goes bigger than that, deeper than that. It's something that actually goes contrary to our nature. You understand? To have to go through this experience, go through the academic process, is actually contrary to your nature. You understand what I'm saying? As a black man, to have to go through that. So was it something that at that time you were able to do this because you felt that perhaps, how can I put it, the end justified the means, or?
Well, you know, at that time when I was going through all this, I knew nothing about left brain, right brain, nothing like that. And so I think my main thought was that I don't know what kind of language I can use on this show, you know, but I can do things just like, you know, so-called white folks can do, you know. It's like, you know, they don't have nothing on us, you know, and so that was my motivation. It's like, hey, I can do just like you can do, maybe better. You know, I didn't think about the method of learning and all of that. Yeah, nowadays I think about that, you know, and especially being a professor, you know, how I can better reach my students, you know, because, you know, we get socialized to do things in a particular way, you know, and so as far as how to learn, we're not urged or encouraged, you know, to use our intuition, you know, to go within and do things. It's mostly, we're going to teach you a whole bunch of facts, and, you know, we're going to teach you how to think in the context, in the atmosphere of those facts, you know, and in premises and such. And when you have a problem, you're expected to go to that and solve a problem.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the biggest thing you go through in this so-called educational system that we have is you lose your creativity.
Right.
And that's something that's very important as far as your creative process. That's what almost in a way defines your humanity and aligns you with that higher or sense of higher self that you have within you. You know, so once you lose your creative spirit, you know, you almost become automaton. And that's really what they want.
Right.
You're dealing with a system where they do not want someone who, as you know, you hear bounced around so much now, free thinker. Well, we all know free thinkers. You understand what I'm saying? We all are on this conveyor belt.
Right.
And we're just kicking out whatever it is we've been programmed to kick out in this simulation. But let me ask you this then. You know, you talked about your experiences in the Nation of Islam. Is there any other, I guess, organizations you've been a part of or groups that may have had some influence on you as far as dealing with not only physics, but some of the other areas that I know you deal with?
Well, I'll progress from where I went from the nation. So in 1975, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed away, and then the community was one of his sons, Waterdean Muhammad, assumed leadership of that community, and he turned the community into an Orthodox Islamic community. And so I stayed with that, and a number of people did. Minister Farrakhan was with that community for a time, and I think in 1977 he broke away and took a course that was similar to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had been doing in the Nation of Islam. So I stayed with that community for a while throughout grad school. But when I was in grad school, I was talking to other people, and I had that mentality that a number of people have, that it's my way, my way is the way, that kind of thing, and if people could only see what I saw, or if they really thought it out, they would become Muslims too, and all of that. And I'm not hating on Islam or anything like that, but I'm just relating how I saw things personally. But I talked to people. There was this brother who he was from Atlanta originally, and he was into a metaphysical society called Eckankar. Yeah, and then there was another brother who was from the continent, and he was a Christian. And we would start these heavy discussions about who was right about in their point of view, and we might go to lunch and come back from lunch and stand in the hall, and people would have gone to class and come back from class, and we're still talking. So we would do this on many occasions. And so one of the things that I learned from that is that, other people have points of view, and what makes me right? Other people, can look at the same things that I look at and come to a different conclusion, explain it in a much different way. That was one thing that was going on. Another thing that was going on was the particular Muslim community I was in, was cozying up to people in the U.S. government. Ronald Reagan was the president, and they were trying to be America.
Right, it looked like I remember at one point, didn't they have y'all saluting the flag or saying the Pledge of Allegiance or something?
Well, or feeling comfortable doing all those things, and so, hey, whoever out there, if that's your thing, that's your thing, But to me, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Right. So you were like, So at that point, you was like, I got to get up out of this.
Yeah, where y'all going? And then, also, being at a place like MIT, different speakers, come in, and we invited people to come in, like for Black History Month and such. And, at other times, and Ivan Van Sertima came and spoke, for example, and other people. And so, I learned more about our ancient cultures, history, and I really got into that. And then I read this book by Sheikh Anta Diop, African Origin of Civilization. That was really an epiphanal book for me, turned me around. And so I decided that African people were living good lives or doing something before Muslims and Christians came around. And so I wanted to know more about what we were doing, what were our indigenous or our traditional cultures, and that got me interested in particular into Kemetic, culture. So I brought that down when I went to DC for a couple years, and then I came to Atlanta. And so I wound up at Clark Atlanta University. That's where I started there. And one of the grad students in our department, he was from Senegambia. He was from the Gambia. And I didn't have a car, and I took Marta to West End Station, and I saw him there. And we walked the campus, and we started talking, and we got on the subject of Kemet, and he was saying that, well, I know this book, that talks about, what the Kemetic spiritual culture was like. See, I had never read anything about spiritual culture. You read different facts.
Right, the historical stuff, Shake at the joke, you was going through all of that,
But what were people doing in the mystery school? What were they talking about?
Right.
Yeah. And so during the lunchtime, he took me up to the West End in town, that's close to campus. That's an area close to campus. And it was a book by Rawan Nefer Amen, Medu Neter, Volume 1. And I read that book, and that was a very epiphanal book in my life, too, And so Rawan Nefer Amen, he's the king, the Shechem of the Osara Set Society. They're based in Brooklyn. And so, and they have places throughout the country and in some other countries as well. I was on a trip one time to London and in Paris, spent the week at each time, and in going from London to Paris, went to Dover and then took this ferry over. Met a brother on there who was on a day holiday, and there was a study group in London, with Osara Set, and we happened to meet him,
Do we have a caller on the line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Greetings.
Greetings. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, I want to pick your guest brain as a physicist. I like the first question. I'm asking two, and I'm going to hang up. First question is, what area of science preoccupies itself with the development of nuclear energy and nuclear weapons? What area of science preoccupies itself with the development of nuclear energy and nuclear weapons? And number two, could you briefly give the audience a run-through of how nuclear weapons are developed, why a nuclear physicist is so sensitive politically, like Israeli Mossad would target scientists in Egypt and the Palestinians or whatever in Syria to kill them? And I like you to, because I know a lot of people watch the news about North Korea and Iran, but they don't know the politics behind those who develop nuclear weapons and enriching uranium. Could you kind of do a discussion on all that briefly, if you can? I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I would say that you kind of answered your first question, who deals with nuclear power and all of those things. I'm not a nuclear physicist, okay, but that is the area, nuclear physics, that deals with that. Why such a person would be dangerous, I guess it depends on what they're eventually going to do, because that's an area where you would find out about how to enrich uranium and what critical mass you would need to have a bomb and all of those kind of things. Like I said, I'm not in that area. I never studied such things. But that's why you could be a dangerous person, And if you had that kind of knowledge, there are countries in the world who would like your help, And so you would probably be something that someone who they would keep a good eye on, if you were in that area. Yeah, but I'm not in that area.
What area are you in?
Well, I did particle physics when I was in grad school, but I'm not doing any kind of research right now.
Okay.
I just simply teach.
Okay, now when we talk about particle physics, what, atomic, subatomic particles? Or?
It's below the level of nuclear. Okay, so particle physicists are interested in what's the ultimate structure of matter and energy.
Okay.
Yeah, what are matter and energy in their most basic, constituents.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's what they deal with. But I was dealing with theoretical stuff. I wasn't working on an accelerator. I wasn't doing any kind of, I wasn't in the experimental area of it.
You more mathematical equations,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, mostly mind physics.
Right,
okay,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I know, Well, let me ask you this now, because you talked about you got into Osara Set and you started moving sort of from physics to metaphysics.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that you, in a way, you started saying, okay, all this academic BS that I've been dealing with, I'm about to throw this all away. And I'm going to get from the fake so-called study nature of things to the real study nature of things.
That's correct.
So you started moving from this so-called academic physics, and let me start moving to some kinetic science here, to some real deal stuff, getting away from this fake stuff that I learned at University of Chicago and MIT.
Right.
And we start getting to some stuff that we was dealing with. That's our original stuff back in the day.
Right. And even the stuff that's dealt with in the Western culture, the stuff that I learned, what started that? If you go back far enough, those folks took things from our ancestors, things that our ancestors did. Now, I'm not saying that they're doing things the way that our ancestors did, but I'm saying the beginnings of their knowledge, started with us.
Well, the caller talked about nuclear weapons or atomic weapons. We know already in our study when we deal with metaphysics or as we move into occult science, that which you have inside you is more powerful, you know what I'm saying, than any nuclear bomb or atomic bomb. It just has to be activated.
That's right.
And what they do is they keep us constantly under the simulation so that which you have inside you, because we know what we have inside of us is more powerful than that.
That's what it
You
real
understand what I'm
power
saying?
is, right,
You know?
right.
You know what I'm saying? You can take that nuclear bomb, hold it in your hand, and blow up, and nothing happened. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
That which you have inside of you.
That's right.
But as you moved into, I guess, the field of metaphysics, if you could just tell me about some of the experiences as you went back to Africa, you know what I'm saying? Because I think you're an Ifa priest, correct?
Right.
If you could just tell me about, what, as you moved from dealing with, I guess you were you a priest in Osara?
No.
Okay.
Well, I was never a member of Osara.
Okay, but you were studying.
I was studying with them.
Okay.
I think they call it Oracle of Tahuti students.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
they would allow you to study, to go to classes without becoming a member.
The six laws of Tahuti, deal with what, just deal with what you primarily, just when they say the laws of Tahuti.
Oh no! Well, I've heard of that, but I haven't heard them talk about that.
They were primarily just dealing
Sarah.
with it from the standpoint, I guess, their interpretation.
Right.
Okay, okay.
They have a Kabbalistic view of deities.
Tree
They
of
work
life.
with a tree of life. But presented through comedic deities. And so I was dealing with that. That had an effect on me, and at some point, well, I learned, Osara also talked about other traditional African cultures and how what folks were doing in Kemet, is along the same lines, or what people are doing in traditional cultures today, somewhat along the same lines as what people were doing in Kemet, that you can make you can make a relationship. And so eventually I became interested in one of the traditional, current traditional cultures, the Yoruba culture in particular. I met some people who were into that, and it seemed like at some time, I would say around 1995, that was becoming a big thing, in Atlanta. There were a lot of people going in that direction. And so I went into that direction, and it wound up in me going to Nigeria to be initiated into Ifa, And so...
so you're a Babalawo then?
Babalawo means father has secrets, okay? And so in that sense, I would say yes, okay? But really, Babalawo has more the connotation of master of secrets. I don't call myself a master right now. I would say I'm Kekere Owl. I'm a little owl.
A little owl, okay.
I would go with that.
Do we have a call on the line?
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello?
Yeah, God bless you all. How you doing today?
Okay,
All right.
good evening. How are you?
Good. I had two questions. The first question is the understanding of physics cultural neutral, meaning that do cultures understand physics and attack physics from different approaches, or all cultures understand and attack physics from the same perspective or same approach? And my second question is, to be a physicist, do you have to be a genius in math or just have an interest in physics, and you may not be that great in math sciences?
Okay. Is it cultural neutral? I'm going to say no, and not because it's physics in particular, but going back to something we were talking about earlier, the way that we learn things. I mean, the Western education system is more a left brain based thing, and so we're going to take things and we're going to break it down into components and look at different facts and name different things, give a lot of definitions, and we're going to take all of those things and use our logic, our sequential logic, and try to put things together. Whereas a right brain approach is more intuitive, trying to grasp things all at once, And so I would say that any kind of learning, not just physics, is not culturally neutral, As far as, do you have to know a lot of math and all of that to be able to do physics? If you're going to do it in the current structure, in the world that we're in today, yes, you do, okay? Does that mean that you don't know any physics? Well, I tell people, you don't need any math to really understand some basic things. If I had an object in my hand, like I have this cup, I'm not going to let it go and drop to the floor because it has some water in it. Mm-hmm. But we know that if I let it go, it's going to drop, right? You don't need any math to know that, But if you're going to predict how long it's going to take to reach the ground and how fast is it traveling at the moment of impact and all of that, that's where math comes in handy. So if you're going to do it the way that it's done right now, yes, you're going to have some mathematical training.
Well, then I think he also asked, then would you say you have to be someone who's quote unquote smart or brilliant to study physics?
Yeah, but what that mean?
Right.
Okay.
So, if you're right, you can apply yourself to whatever you want to apply yourself to.
Right.
Yeah, so that's not necessary. Yeah. And I'm more than sure, I think you mentioned him before, you've had some students that came in as very weak students.
Right. So to the caller, if you want to do it, you can do it.
You like Garvey said, okay. Like Marcus Garvey said, you can accomplish what you will.
That's right. That's right.
Well, because there's some basic rules I think we all take for granted, like you mentioned, I guess, the concept of gravity, or, if we just deal with things that everybody should know, like the concept of a solid, a liquid, a gas, plasma, or if you take the concepts, as you talk about your 4 basic rules, when you deal with the concepts of, as you say, let's say we take a weak interaction, strong interaction, you understand what I'm magnetism, your gravity, you understand what I'm saying, which is things that we all can kind of have a basic understanding of.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to, I think what it is it's more conditioning. And again, when you're conditioned a certain way, or you're conditioned to push yourself away from that, then you're not going to deal with it. But if you have an understanding that, well, this is all yours anyway.
Right.
All of this is your science.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And then also to understand that this is actually beneath you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The highest form of science is that which we do on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? As me and you were talking about, that you see in the form of the dance, in the form of the creativity. That universal language of mathematics and music.
We're not working out any equations. Okay, how should I move? Right. We're not doing it. We're just doing it.
Which you already are programmed in your DNA. With a propensity to math, because everything in the universe is mathematics.
We hear that tune, we know the rhythm of it. We're not 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
It just comes to you naturally.
Right.
You wouldn't have been able to do the things that will have been done. You understand what I'm saying? If you didn't have that understanding. It's just that you've been put into a state of where you no longer, think that's something that's for you.
Right.
At least from my opinion. Given the way the educational structure is set up, and with all the other BS that you have to deal with in the society, it makes it kind of difficult to say, okay, I'm going to focus on dealing with this. Well, especially if you figure you ain't getting no money out of it. You understand what I'm saying? The only money you can get is, okay, I'm going to go work for them and a defense contract or for the government.
Well, bottom line, it's not made for us.
Right.
Yeah. It's made, when I was in grad school, and I saw that much then, Pink Floyd had this song, The Wall. All in all, you're just another brick on the wall. And that's how I saw it. That's what all this is, all this education. I'm not.
We don't need no education.
Right. We don't need no thought control. Right. And so, it's something that we're given, we're socialized, we're brainwashed to fit into a particular system, to be of service, to a particular system, and it's up to us to free ourselves, and free our minds and see that that's what's being done to us, on a daily basis.
Well, as a physicist, then how can you explain to us then that we're really in a matrix? This is really just a simulation. We're really just one part of one big giant computer program. You understand what I'm saying? That really this is just, because me and you were just talking about that Gates himself had worked on the computation for letting us know that, well, this is just,
Isn't that something? Because, I mean, when the movie The Matrix came around, it really lends itself to, oh yeah, that's what's being done to us. We're living in a world that's not real. We're being programmed. We're just a battery. Our talents, our smarts, whatever you want to call it, are being used to serve someone else, and we think that this is all real, that this is the way life is supposed to be. But ironically, okay, my thesis advisor, Jim Gates, who's a renowned, black physicist, he was doing some work, with some of his grad students, and they came up with something that people grabbed, and it has led to or supported the idea that we're living in a computer simulation universe, or holographic universe.
A holographic universe.
So the Matrix, of the movie, that it seems like that's what we're actually living in.
Would you say it's a matrix, like it's a set of tensors built on tensors,
that is some kind of program that I mean, so it makes you question what of this is real,
right?
Right. Are we really sitting here in this studio having this conversation, or is our true essence really somewhere else?
Right.
And we're just interacting with some program, and are you and I really different?
Exactly.
To really go beyond there, are we one being just expressing itself in?
But when they came out with that information, it's almost as if they just kind of skipped over it. They said, well, here it is. We have the computation, and it's so much out there that we're dealing with that. Folk will look at you as a physicist. I don't think many people understand, though, that you're basically saying, I'm throwing physics away, because I'm trying to move to something even higher, not just metaphysics, but you start dealing with comedic science, occult sciences, where you said, actually, I found out that the physics is an illusion. That the actual study of nature of things really wasn't studying the true nature of things.
You have to go beyond physics.
Beyond physics.
Right. You have to go into metaphysics, or people would say the occult, some people, you have to go into occult knowledge. Yeah, but you got to go beyond the physical. The physical, many of the mystics have said over the many years that the physical is just an illusion. It's Maya, And so, however you look at however you take that to mean, at the very least, it means that this is not the reality that we're living in.
And that you have
that there's something higher.
Realities. You hear that now with people talk about the Hadron or the super collider. Or people talk about now dealing with quantum mechanics, the D-wave computer, and how they're playing with realities and the Mandela effect, and all these manipulations of reality, so that we have these multiple realities. And I mean, you coming out of the occult science understand what reality is, what you choose to make it. But if you choose to dwell in this particular reality, that's what will happen. But if you can somehow free your mind to understand if it's an illusion, I can bring whatever reality to me that I choose to, and create my own reality.
Right, you can transcend this. Yeah, that's right.
And it's something to think about. Because I think when you talk about Jim Gates and what occurred with superstrings, where before the thought was just, okay, we have all of these particles. But now all of a sudden, it's like when I came across superstrings, I said, look, like that's just proving to me that mathematics and music are the key to the universe. You know what I'm saying? I understand, like you mentioned, it added gravity to the equation, but with superstrings, you then said, okay, it then gave the universe so that it didn't seem so chaotic.
Right.
Like, even though we know if you study, let's say we're going to study chaos theory, or at a high level chaos magic, or where at the big picture of things you're looking at and you're saying, okay, everything is set a certain way, but there's some order to it. But at the minute level, we don't know what's going to happen. Look, right now we're getting to a point at the minute level, things are kind of arranged a certain way. Or at least because of these various possibilities, what difference does it make?
Right. You're correct.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this then. Is it something as far as that has opened your mind up to say, okay, I've discarded this approach to physics. I'm dealing with a higher science now. And would you say that higher science starts to take you to a point where you're like, okay, I'm not even, I guess what I'm saying, how difficult is it now for you to teach classes or deal with your students knowing that, okay, am I just enslaving them? Or you understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, let me say this first. My motivation for going into this direction is, it's know thyself, know who you really are, and we are divine beings. And so once you recognize that, then you kind of push that aside. It's like, no, that's okay. Yeah, we're living in the world, but you can't be of the world. Yeah, it has made it harder for me to teach my students, because as I say, when I was coming out of grad school, I recognized that I was just being trained to be another brick in the wall. And so what am I doing? I'm training other people to be another brick in the wall, Now, it's not for me to make the decision on whether people go to school and all of that. People have to make their own personal decisions. But I think people should make decisions with their eyes open, and you should know what you're getting into. Can you learn something negotiating a Western education? Yeah, you can learn some things, but that's not where the true learning is.
So let's just get rid of school then. That's what we should do. We should and have our own schools. Let's go back to.
Well, I would go further, not just get rid of schools.
Right,
we need to get rid of this
whole so-called reality
right,
that we're calling real,
right,
but it's just actually a simulation.
Right. That's right. Let's not stop
I know it gets
schools.
difficult after a while. I'm just educating them to become batteries. You understand? And to go out in the world and actually work against us.
Right. Shoot myself in the foot, so to speak. But what I do is I try to make my footprint in that regard as small as possible. I do try to bring people around to some level of consciousness, to some kind of awareness, to encourage people. I can't get on the soapbox and all of that. It's not for me to do that. But it inevitably students come to me outside of class and ask me about life issues and things. And so, to me, those are opportunities to open their eyes to, to different things, that's apart from, Western learning,
Well, I know our time is coming to a close. I'm gonna mention some sources maybe people can go to besides, dealing with the subject matter. We were talking about the brother out of Atlanta, Brother Panic. Check him out on YouTube. Anyone else?
Let's see. I listen to a lot of Bobby Hemmett, lectures.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot, and when you're listening to other people, remember, it's like listening to anybody. I mean, take what you need and leave the rest. And so take everything with a grain of salt. And what I mean is take it with a discriminating, mind. Find out what works for you.
Well, it was great having you. Is there any email or something you can give us to get in contact with you? If people want to get in contact with you?
Well, people can reach me. I have a Morehouse address, and that Morehouse address is my first name, which is AAKHUT, followed by my last name, AAKHUT dot. Okay, my last name, BAK, at morehouse.edu. And Morehouse is MOREHOUSE. You'd be surprised how many people do MOORE, but it's MORE, like more, like I got more, morehouse.edu.
Well, I appreciate you able to come with us. And then next time when you come on here, we're going to talk about that flat earth theory.
Oh, okay.
And how legitimate that is. How that's just, people don't want to go with it, but, and how the earth is really flat, and part of the simulation,
Well, I would encourage the audience that, this is a time where you really have to question things. Don't just leave things the way they are. Question things.
Well, I appreciate it.
All right, my pleasure. All right.
Let our rejoicing rise high as listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing victory is won.
Listen to me now, yo, before Dr. Dre, there was Dr. James, welding cords around a copper frame. We sing songs, not for the accolades, to lift voices like a helicopter blade. High in the listening skies, my eyes glisten and tears drop down like rain. Not from the pain, from the joy of how far we came. My brainstorms are designed to celebrate our reign. The collective, monuments erected, continents affected, presidents elected, ancestors making moves with the music we've been blessed with. We use it to keep communities connected. Through harmonies, a harmony is collected. Reaping the fruits our foremothers invested. Lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, yeah, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on, listen, lift every voice till freedom has manifested. Come on.
Sing a song,
Yeah, talk to
full of the faith that the dark past has taught us.
come on.
Sing a song, full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun
Facing the rising sun. Come on,
of our new day begun.
it's a new day.
Let us march on
Yeah.
till victory is
Yeah,
won.
until victory is won. Come on.
Till victory is
This is
won.
victory music. Come on, I hope you feel it.
Yeah.